Hey guys, it's me, Soso. I know I haven't posted in a while, so today I'm back with a Speedpaint / tutorial. I've looked around and I haven't seen nearly as many tutorials for how to make a webtoon on Krita. Most tutorials feature Clip Studio Paint, and I don't have that sort of money at the moment. Without further ado, let's begin. When you upload your story onto Webtoon, they give guidelines about how to go about formatting. You need to make 2 covers for your series, a square thumbnail 1080 by 1080 and a vertical thumbnail 1080 by 1280. I forgot to draw my cover images and I had to speedily draw a cover image for my Webtoon series. I drew the image in 3000 by 3000 pixels, then I resized it accordingly. I chose a quick and easy pose for the cover and a very simple background. Remember that keeping your layers separate makes it much easier to resize the images. For each episode, you also want a cover image. There's no specific size necessary, but the minimum size is 160 by 151. It has to be less than 500 kilobytes, so keep that in mind. The actual image files with the story must be at most 800 by 1280 pixels. Clearly though, this is way too little space. Anyone who reads webtoons knows that even slice-of-life webtoons aren't this small. A good workaround is to draw the webtoon out as if you were reading it, then slice the PNG file afterwards. I created this webtoon template so I can see all of the art at the moment's notice. If I run out of room, then I just create another sketch layer. To make this webtoon template I have, first create a file that is 800 by 3000 pixels. Then use the rectangular brush tool on the sidebar and make sure it only makes a thin outline. Choose a brush that doesn't have pressure sensitivity to make your life easier. Drag the rectangle from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. If you zoom out far enough, the rectangle should automatically snap to the corners. Once you've done that, use the keyboard shortcut Alt-Ctrl-C or go to the Image tab at the top and click Resize Canvas. Then, resize the canvas to 2400 by 3000 pixels. Don't forget to click this button. Now that the canvas is resized, you should have an outline that is 800 pixels wide. Duplicate the layer with the outline and align them using the transform tool, like so. Then merge the layers together with the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-E or right-clicking over the layers. After you merge the layers, add the other layers as necessary. I have them arranged like this. Know that the bubble layer can be a vector layer or a paint layer. I'll explain the differences later. If you want to turn this whole setup into a template, go to the File drop-down menu and click on Create Template from Image. Name your template whatever you want and put it in whichever folder you'd like. Now that you have your webtoon template ready, you can use it to draw. I decided to do a quick sketch of my main characters to give myself a good reference point. The sketches were supposed to be simple, but I ended up spending an hour on each of them. At least they're decent reference points. I recommend if you're going to go about drawing a webcomic, you should also consider drawing out your character's facial expressions. It'll make life so much easier. For my webtoon, I decided to create a story about a girl named Cleopatra who's forced to serve Ocanus, the god of death and order. This is very much inspired by Egyptian mythology, but I decided to make my own gods for this story. In this episode/prologue, Cleopatra is bargaining with Ocanus for a sip of the elixir of everlasting life. The elixir of everlasting life basically allows those who drink it to get a second chance at life. The bottle decides who's worthy of the elixir. It, however, favors men. Cleopatra is the first, and so far only woman, to drink the elixir because she used magic to break the bottle. The girl I'm drawing is Cleopatra. I decided to give her a starry sky sort of look with very bright golden highlights. The drop headband is to symbolize that she drank the elixir and is now part of the Order of Ocanus. I originally did the sketch on my phone since I didn't feel like bringing out my drawing tablet. It looks very different from the new version. I kinda drew her straight out of my head the way she's seen in movies. After some research, I found that she probably had very curly hair and a bump on the nose, 2 features I don't draw often. I did another sketch on my phone again to correct some of the inaccuracies of the original. In the redraw, she looks much more tired, much older. However, it was a little too much, so I needed to find some middle ground. Eventually, I reached a sort of middle ground, which is the current design. The boy I'm sketching here is the other main character, Femi. His backstory is a little complicated and still being written, so I can't say much about him. All I can say, without spoiling anything, is that he's a demigod. He's also an orphan because I apparently have a thing for making all my characters orphans. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. The blue veins represent the godly blood in him. I also gave him unnaturally large pupils to help hint towards his godly parent. They're a little misleading, but it works. I didn't really plan out Femi's design, but I really like how this turned out. It makes him look so innocent. Here I am going in using the Webtoon template to plan out my sketch. I first start with rough sketches of how I want the story to look. I don't worry too much about spacing since I have another step for that. The sketches can look very rough. If you're an artist working with a writer, you might want to do a cleanup sketch to help your partner understand what in the world is going on. Once you're done with the sketch, I recommend adding the text next. That way you know where to draw and where not to. I don't do this, but I should have. The lettering can be done by hand or with different fonts. I know there are some websites out there where you can create your own font from your handwriting. I also recommend dafont.com for free fonts that you can download and add to your Krita. There's tutorials online for how to do that. The speech bubble layer can be a vector layer or a paint layer, and it's very easy to give it the nice clean outline. First, right-click on the layer to open Layer Style. Check the stroke option and make the opacity 100%. Then make the outline 7 pixels. Personally, I don't like my speech bubbles very thick, so I just stick with 7 pixels. Of course, if you'd like it to be thicker or thinner, you can always change this number. You can always change the color of the outline as well to better fit your art style. Vector layers allow for independent movement of the speech bubbles. If you're still arranging and still trying to figure things out during the sketch phase, vector layers are very useful because you can move around the text and the speech bubbles and not have to worry about pixelating things. However, if you're trying to do a speech indent, you have to group the layers together and just gotta adjust everything independently. There is a little bit of lag depending on the canvas size. Paint layers make it easier to adjust bubbles with a little speech indent. I personally use paint layers since once I have a sketch, I know exactly where to put the bubbles. Also, paint layers allow for more customized sizes. If you want to go for a more hand-drawn looking bubble, it's better to use a paint layer. Be warned though that moving these bubbles around might cause some pixelated edges. Honestly, it all depends on your workflow and whichever one you find more convenient. I then did my liner and some very overcomplicated coloring. I didn't plan ahead for any of this, so learn from my mistakes and plan a color palette for the scenes, or something, because this really hurt my head. I forgot to mention that I had no clue what Oakiness would look like. Then I got the idea of making him an all-seeing eye, since he's all about order. I made him golden to help him stand out from the background. Also, I really love that gold-blue aesthetic, so we're rolling with it. He's fairly simple to draw, and kinda messy. The art, not his character, obviously. If you want to see the finished episode for this video, you can! By the time this video is out, you can too read my beautiful finished product and give it a heart. Also, deepest apologies for any PTSD that was triggered by this intro, or interruption. Back to the program. Now that mostly everything's finished, create a new file that is maybe 800 by 6,000 pixels, or longer if your computer can handle it. You're going to use the rectangular selection tool and select the area of the comic like so. Hide the guidelines so they don't get copied, and use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-Shift-C to copy the entire selection. Then switch files and Ctrl-V. You're going to want to use the transform tool to adjust the copied files into the right order. Here, I'm just adjusting the spacing and timing between the panels. Of course, if your computer can't handle the 800 by 6000 pixel file, you can make it a little bit shorter, maybe 800 by 4000 if that's the most your computer can handle. Just enough space so you can see the proper layout of the Webtoon. Save all of these segments as PNG, JPEG, or GIF files. Now we can slice our files and upload into Webtoon. I use an online tool called Croppy, link in the description, that slices these larger images and puts them into zip files. It's very convenient, especially for larger Webtoons. This is completely optional, but I also chose to add my social media to the bottom of the Webtoon. I made it so I can add it to the ends of all my episodes. I drew myself knitting because it felt cliche for me to hold a pencil or something. Webtoon also gives you the option to preview your Webtoon and switch out any images as needed. This is very helpful for if an image gets swapped, or if you want to fix something a character said. I hope this tutorial helps you guys. Leave any questions you have in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.